Okay, good morning, everybody, and depending in other places of the world where you are, good afternoon or good evening. My name is Lisa Berkley, and I'm working with Ree Price, Sandy Hart, Brianne Lathorpe, Betsy Spano, and Susan DeGaio, all of whom are working behind the scenes to make this possible. This is Reaction to Response, a twice a month, year-long, webinar series that was birthed through the Charter of Compassion Women and Girls sector to inspire and engage people to move from reactive to responsive behavior at the local, national, and international level in order to create a more compassionate and just world. And to give you just a little bit of background about the Charter for Compassion, it's a thriving network of more than 400 cities and regions and compassions in over 50 countries with nearly 1,700 partners organized into 11 sectors of society. The women and girls sector was the 11th sector. And this series came out of the recognition for the need for care-based and compassion-based responses to the world rather than reactions out of anger and fear. And so that's where we're going to start off today. But before we go into introducing our two guests, I would like just to do a little bit of house cleaning. And even before that, the purpose of today's call is to talk about the interconnectedness of the earth and her animate and inanimate beings, and to also give you tools and practices to help make the world a little bit better. And this is in honor of the Earth Week. And with that in mind, one of our partners is the Compassion Games. And so the Women and Girls sector invites you to join us in the upcoming Compassion Games, which is called Water is Life, Protect the Sacred Earth Week. And that's going to be April 22nd to the 30th. So you can go to the compassiongames.org and register with Team Charter Women and Girls. Okay, a little bit more about house cleaning stuff or housekeeping. You may want to also get a piece of paper because I'm going to give you the link for the after party, because today's format, we will have our conversation here with Helen and Arnold, and then we're going to switch to another link where we'll be able to have more of an interactive conversation about how you can take what was discussed about in this call into another conversation that'll be more interactive. Oh, great. Okay, thank you, Reed, who has just put up all of the information for you. So while I'm going over the last bit of house cleaning, you can, housekeeping rather, you can jot down the information. Okay, so first, this call is being recorded, and if you have any questions during our call, you can feel free to post them in the question and answer or chat section of your webinar box. Please be direct so that we can get to as many questions as possible. Then if you have any questions or technology issues, you can go to zoom.us or contact us via chat and we'll try to help you. Lastly, you can find us on Facebook at Reaction to Response, as well as if you go to the Charter for Compassion's website on the lower right-hand side. And as you can see, if you're called in on the phone, and you want to participate in our conversation at the after party, that phone number, there are two possible numbers. The first one is 646-558-8656, or a different number, 408-638-0968. And then regardless of which number you call into, the meeting ID number is 653-718-545. Okay, so I think that's going to beginning into our conversation where I can introduce our guests to you. The first person that I will introduce to you is Helen Samuels. She is a modern elder, a community activator, and a catalyst, an environmental restoration facilitator. Helen is among a rare group of innovative and courageous social entrepreneurs who are changing the way the world views solutions to our environmental and social changes. With dogged determination, compassionate action, and hands-on grassroots organizing, Helen, an Ashoka Fellow, describes herself as a lifelong independent social entrepreneur dedicated to the honoring and restoration of Earth, honoring and empowering the voice and vision of youth, in particular from overpopulated cities, and honoring and restoring the rights and ancestral cultures of indigenous nations. She spent more than 40 years and visited over 25 countries, inspiring and supporting youth with projects mainly in Mexico and the United States. Her dedicated efforts have deeply engaged young leaders in eco-social movements, which has led to the creation of hundreds of youth-run projects. Through the replication of sustainable practices through local and global networks, these projects spawned many additional community-based projects. The work Helen has done has altered the way the media, decision makers, and others perceive urban and native youth cultures, as well as the way youth perceive themselves. So thank you, Helen, for being with us. Our next guest is Arnold Ricalde, an advisor to the government of Mexico City of matters of large-scale recycling, and he serves as a solid waste consultant to the City of Mexico and to the nation. He's the director of Organic K, and of the Integrative Environmental Systems and Services, also known as ISSA. He's also the 2000 co-author with Laura Curry of Ecohabitat, Experiencias Rumba a la Sostenibilidad. I hope I did not destroy my Spanish there, I'm sorry. With Organic K, he actively participated in Ecobarrios program in Coyoacan in Mexico City, and for more than 10 years, he has been organizing eco-housing, eco-village design, and sustainable settlements workshop. Arnold, is also the coordinator of Pendafest Festival, Mexico's largest event on the use of disposable materials. He's organized organic markets in different delegations in Mexico City, and is one of the pillars of the movement of Council of Visions of Earth Guardians. He also contributed to the dissemination of bioregionalism, permaculture, and the Mexican and Global Eco-Village Network. I hope, as I said, I didn't destroy the Spanish too much. It's not my native language. And I just want to preface this that Arnold is calling in from Mexico City, and that's where most of his work has been done. Helen has spent most of her life between Mexico and the US, as well as other nations. And I had the great honor of spending, I think, about 5 days with them, seeing the work that they were doing there. And I was really deeply touched. Sorry, it was just such heart-centered, beautiful work. And I'm very much looking forward to sharing this all with you today. So what I'd like to do is share with you just a brief clip of an interview that was done between Helen and Arnold, talking a little bit about the overarching views and background behind the thinking of what they're doing. So I'm going to switch out of this and get into a shared screen mode.
And remember to click the share audio of your computer on that share screen mode.
Thank you. Excellent call. Okay, and there we go. Hold on, share screen. Okay.
Mexico has done something very historic recently in June. Okay. The first international forum, global forum, for the rights of Earth.
That's true.
And in Spanish it turns into the rights of nature, to acknowledge that nature is alive. Now, it was extraordinary. People came from all over the world. So I'd like you to explain to people who have never even tried to do this, and people who don't know it happened, what is the relevance, not only locally, nationally, but internationally, and the relevance as far as humans coming together as a model and exporting it. So
we see in the June, on the day of Mother Earth, we had a very big event to acknowledge that the Earth is alive. We've been hearing some thoughts about that since the 70s. We had never truly acknowledged it as a community, as a country, as a city. We even went as far as to put it in our local constitution. It just passed a few months ago, and a lot of it had to do with the event we had priorly. But it's a way of saying that the Earth is alive, that we should shift our focus. We're only focused on humans, on us, and not on everything that surrounded us. So the rights of Mother Earth is saying that we're just humans, and we're just part of a big chain of life. Humans are not the only living beings in this planet. The Earth is alive. All the things that we surround us are alive, and we should respect them. So that's the main purpose of this, to find respect and honor all the living things that surround us, and not just think that they're below us. Not just thinking that everything that we have is to satisfy us. No, we have to take care of that, because we are diminishing everything that is life. We're destroying all the woods, all the jungle, all the animals, and this is a way to say no. We want to live a longer time as humans in this planet, but unable to live here, we have to respect and acknowledge all living beings and start harmonizing with them. This is very important also because Mexico, it's a place where we have a lot of cultures, a lot of indigenous visions, and it's a way also to rescuing all that thought, because all the ancestral thought had that way of seeing life, have that paradigm as the way of conceiving their life here on Earth. Also, we're trying to recover all that knowledge, and to find a new way of living here on Earth. Starting with Mexico City. We have this big event. Vandana Shiva was here, Leonardo Bob was here, a lot of people from Nepal was here, from Europe, from Scotland, a lot of indigenous groups, a lot of tribes members, and they were here just in one thing: the Earth is alive, and we have to respect it. So we're trying to do it the legal way. We already started with the Constitution of Mexico City. Right now we're going to work in secondary laws, acts, where we're going to try to push this focus, and respect the earth and the woods and every tree that we have in the city, of all the water that is left, and try to start a new way to relate with Mother Earth. She gives us everything. Everything we have comes from the earth. Everything we're wearing comes from the earth. Everything that we eat comes from the earth. Everything that where we live, all the materials, comes from the earth. And it's time to start giving the earth a little bit more than garbage or pollution. So we should give the earth a caring and love, so we can live in this planet in a harmonical way.
Okay. So as you heard, and I started a little bit earlier in that video than I had intended, but where the rest of the conversation was going to go and where I'd like to take off from is a little bit about how acknowledging the earth in the Constitution came into being, and then also from there how you started such an amazing movement at the local level. So Arnold, you want to go ahead and start us off, and let's just have fun.
I was watching the video. We were shooting that on the Huerto Roma Verde. That's an urban garden that we have here in Mexico City. It started from scratch. 5 years ago, there was just rubbish in that green urban garden, and now we have one of the most or the biggest urban garden in Mexico City, where a lot of NGOs come and visit, where a lot of people learn urban agriculture. And we're very proud because it started from zero. It started from a lot of rubbish, a lot of waste that was transformed into something alive, something that it's useful, and something that gives us food to feed us every day. And that's how this movement started. When I was a kid, I remember listening that Mexico City was one of the most polluted cities in the world, that this city was horrible, that you couldn't even breathe, you couldn't even walk, that you would get robbed in every corner. And I kept growing with this image of Mexico City, but I thought that I could make a change as a person. When I started riding my bike, they told me that nobody rode a bike in Mexico City, and it was not possible to make a difference, to make a change. And that's how it all started 25 years ago, trying to transform this. It all started in a very small level. When we started pushing the bicycle system in Mexico City, we were just 5 people, 5 persons pushing this agenda. And nowadays we have achieved a big bicycle system throughout the whole city. There's more than 100 to 200,000 people bicycling every day to transport themselves. And this has been done through a small group of people that believe in a change and believe that things can be done differently. And that's why we got together a lot of people also believing that we can change the perception of Earth, and we can see Earth as a living creature, and we could give rights, legal rights to Mother Earth. Legal rights meaning that we can defend a tree legally, that we could defend the rivers legally, and then we can defend animals legally. And that's what we're working on, to make a legal framework. So all these living creatures, also obviously humans, have a protection, have a legal status, and are recognized as living creatures, and are recognized of having legal rights and framework. That's what we're working on in Mexico City at this moment.
Wow, that's so beautiful, and such an amazing vision, but you're actually also implementing it. And I know in the US, we're beginning to follow suit. Now, nowhere near quite, but certainly on different states, acknowledging that animals anyway have rights, or rather that people don't have to abuse them. So that's a good, definitely a good thing. We have much to learn from what's happening there. Helen, did you want to add anything to that?
I just wanted to say that having spent 55 of my 72 years in Mexico, I've seen it grow into a model, an incredible model. Of course, if you listen to regular news, which I don't anymore, is ridiculous, but you don't hear that. But Mexico City, in so many ways, the people are so conscious and so aware, and they're making so many changes. Why? Because they have a word like autogestión that doesn't even exist in English. It means self-gestating, creating ourselves, projects, creating things. I started even in the barrios where, the ciudades perdidas, the lost cities, not even the police would go in there, and because everybody was sparking ideas, and they needed frameworks to be able to say, I really can do this. So I would like the world to really start looking at Mexico, because as what Arnold said, there's that plus hundreds of other things happening, and a lot of them are people within our own organizations. We have a network of 400 networks. It's people are coming together and linking, and a lot of it is based also on total respect and honor of the ancient cultures. Also, so many of us we're always bringing in the indigenous perspective, and the indigenous people themselves are coming in with their wisdom, medicine. It used to be that in the inner city you never found herbs anymore, because there's all kinds of healing herbs that the little grandmothers used to put on the little pots in for the cold and for the tummy and for the this and for the that. And now you see all kinds of people having herbs on their balcony, as a simple healing. So there's this acknowledgement that the people that were there before the first transnational merchant called Columbus came, the people knew how to live in harmony with the earth and respect it. Mm-hmm. Sing to it, sing to the water. So a lot of that has come together, that knowledge, and then now the urbanites are offering their knowledge, you know, how to create a law and how to do this. And so it's a beautiful combination.
Wow, that's stunning. You know, it's a great segue then to go back into the law. And also Arnold, you know, as I started to mention, but I got a little emotional over this stunning work that you've been able to do in this inner city. I don't know if everyone understood, but the background in that video, this lush, green, gorgeous garden is right in the middle of Mexico City with traffic going and craziness right outside. And so obviously you've been part of communities, and also you've mentioned starting to ride a bike as a small kid and wanting to make change. Can you talk a little bit more about just taking an action and in your own belief and your own heart and commitment to change, along with the gardens and the indigenous ways that Helen was referring to in the garden?
Pues I believe that we can all make a change. Is you have to have a strong feeling in your heart, and you have to have the intention, but you also need the right tools and the right people. In my case, I had beautiful teachers that taught me a lot, and most of them were women, people like Helen that taught me that things can be done, that if you put enough discipline, if you put enough work and you put enough love, you can really transform things. When we started the bicycling system in Mexico City, we were just 5 persons. That's nothing in a city of 20 million. They told us that we were crazy, that we were not in Holland, that we were not in it was rather impossible to make a bicycle city out of Mexico City, the most polluted before city in the world. And so we started bicycling, giving the example. We started bicycling every week, making these rides through the city. Then the movement started growing. Then we started finding resonance, especially in some people in the government. I even decided to go and ran up for a parliamentarian position. I had the opportunity to go into office. I ran for the Green Party of Mexico City years ago, and I went into office, and I had the opportunity to change the law and then make it more accessible for all the bikes, for all the people that don't believe in cars, because they're polluting our earth, they're polluting our hearts also, and we have to start getting down off the cars. And this was very clear in Mexico City, a place where there's no more mobility. People are stuck in traffic jams all day. So it really has helped. It has really made a difference in Mexico City. There's a lot of people that started bicycling. We changed the law. We achieved with a new mayor, the last mayor, to put a whole bicycling system with Marcelo Ebrard. It was very good because he also believed in this civil society intention, to make a more mobile city with bicycles. And so we started a very big program now with the government, and it has been running very good. We have more than 600 bicycle stations called Ecobici. We have a network of more than 300 kilometers of cycle paths. And there's a lot of people bicycling, especially on the center of Mexico City, on the central area. And we're very glad all my trips now are done with bicycle. I don't use cars anymore just to go outside of Mexico City. And there's a lot of that have changed their lives, and they're not like stressed in the middle of the car, in the middle of the traffic. And it's something that started with a very small group, and it really moved into a large scale change. And I believe that's how change are done. You have to change in your personal level. You have to work in a community, local level, but you also have to work in a legal, in a public policy level, with the government, with other decision-making persons.
So There's a comment that just came in, a question, and it says, what advice would you give to someone who's inspired by your actions and wants to do something similar in their community? And then the person also said, well, I guess you just answered it. But actually, since I've had conversations with both of you in person and also in preparation for this call, this is something that we talked about addressing. So maybe we can switch a little bit to address this question more from either, well, ultimately both of you. What kind of, if people are inspired by your work, what kind of suggestions can you give them to start?
Let's start with you.
Sorry, hold on. There's another piece to this, which is also, how many years did it take to get the movement of 5 to the point of your run for government?
Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, you have to start with yourself. If you want something to be changed or done, you have to change it yourself. If you wanted people to start bicycling in Mexico City, so obviously you have to start bicycling yourself. And that's a talk we had with the mayor, with this mayor that really supported the bicycle system. He was asking, hey, Arnold, how do we make the people of Mexico City, the citizens, to bike? And I told him, Marcelo, start with yourself. You have to give the example. Even though you're the mayor and you're such a big shot and this very important person, you have to start bicycling yourself and give an example to the whole city, to the whole citizens. That's how it was made big. It worked a lot of years. We started in 2006, 1996. It really got big until 2006. It was 10 years of bicycling every week, making movement and making lots of forums, of making lots of public policy, of making lots of gatherings with bicycles. And we had to do them at least every week. So it was a lot of discipline, a lot of work, a lot of intention. Nobody paid us for a very long time. So it's being a bit stubborn. You have to be stubborn and you have to believe in your convictions and do a lot of work. First, as I told you, we started 5, then the last year we were 100, then we were in the next year we were 500, then we were 1,000, and then we were 5,000, and that's how it started to grow until the government really accepted it and took it as part of their policy. That's how it really grew bigger.
Oh, fabulous. I'm gonna, Helen, I know that you have a lot to say on this topic, so I'm gonna let you take off from Arnold and give your input.
I think the formula is universal, and it's exactly what he said, is start with your own passion and believe that it can happen. Know that it's something that's good for people and it can happen. And then spread it out with your compassion. One of the examples similar to that I did is the inner city, which that's the word they use in the United States, the youth that basically have no resources at all, resources are not available to them for anything. They have to totally invent their lives. For them to get involved in planting their own food from their rooftops and to be this shining example in their own communities, you have to first expose them to it. So I was fortunate to be part of the Eco Habitat, not the Eco Habitat, the group of people that brought bioregionalism to Mexico and brought, all the environmental stuff. So I was going into the city and the punks were very interested. They said, well, we don't want to leave the city. We want to transform our city. And that's how exposing them to, once you know something and you're clear with it and you have a group, you bring them into your group, they learn.
Right. I'm just going to interject for one thing, because you mentioned punks, right? Yeah. And in preparation for this call, I watched a phenomenal video, which we'll be posting on our Facebook page after this call later on today, about some of your work with the punks in the city. Can you talk a little bit more and give us a little bit more frame of reference about what are now called the eco-punks?
Right. Well, to begin with, they already had their own ideology of do-it-yourself. I mean, this is a great ideology and it's floating around the world. You know, you want something done, do it yourself. Okay. So, but they didn't have any exposure at all of the do-it-yourself projects within nature, you know, with like permaculture and, you know, all of that. They didn't have that exposure. So when I was talking to a few of the youth, they were so enthusiastic that I ended up asking. I lived in an eco village in Mexico for 15 years, Huehuecoyot. It was really a seed place for many, many projects to start, all types of projects. It was a training center also for environmental projects. I brought like a truckload of punks, and some of them came in motorcycles. It was just like, okay, it was incredible. So they learned all those things. Well, let me tell you, so many of them became permaculture teachers and permaculture design, but within the city. The whole concept was transform the city that I live in, that I love. That's what their whole concept is. And so I would charge them. I said, you know, there's a cost. What's the cost? Well, every course I give you, you have to go and give that course to somebody else and bring back the results to me. That's what I'm charging. So they had to, you know, spread it and go on. And Mexico has a very beautiful word. It's from the Nahuatl language. It's called tequio.
It's called what?
T-E-K-I-O, tequio.
Oh, right.
Tequio really means, the word is our gift to the community, but it really means hard work. When they say, okay, we're going to do a tequio. Okay, everybody rolls their sleeves up. What are we going to do? We're going to clean up the highway over here. We're going to do this. Things that the government doesn't do for them. Things that, you know, things that everybody wants to improve their life in some way. That's a tequio. They do it together. It's like raising the barn. Okay. So the thing is, that's very common in the culture. You know, so tequios became like, well, we're going to go way out to the garbage dump where they have no water and no way to wash their hands, even the garbage pickers, and let's set up a place for them. The gang members set up a kitchen for them. You know, it's having different members of the community acknowledge that there's other members that are not doing so well and that they can do something, because actually the wealth of every community can be measured by the generosity of the members of that community. And they are very wealthy, believe me. You know, so.
That's a beautiful segue. And actually,
something.
Of course.
With these punks, actually they're eco-punks. And I knew them from 20 years ago, and some of them were kind of aggressive. Some of them were very mad with the city, with the world, with the country. And what Helen achieved was really, really amazing. Now these punks are quite positive. They've turned even to a very wealthy business, alternative people. They own all these alternative clubs, cultural clubs, where they spread a lot of interesting stuff regarding environment, regarding culture, regarding all these positive things, caring things, loving things. And you wouldn't believe if you see these guys 20 years ago and you see them now. It's a very inspiring change. And all this was done through one person, and this person is called Helen Samuels, and she's one of our heroes here in Mexico City, because she's transform things. And it's not about money. I mean, Helen mostly never received like a fee or a pay. She's done it through the heart. She's done it through an intention of believing that things can be done. And this is the most important things, believe it. You can attract things, you can change things if you believe them deep in your heart. And if you believe nothing's gonna move it. No, you have to be like a stone. You have to be like standing rock, and not to move in that intention. And that's one of my most inspiring people in the world. One of the most favorite people in the world is Helen, because she's not just words, she has done tangible stuff.
Aho to that, right on. And that was, you mentioned the punks, right? When we were in Mexico City, it was an amazing experience to go. We went to an after hours club, the punk club. We went a little bit earlier in the evening, but never mind that. It was still this great place because you walked into it. And originally it's like dark, and your brain that's trained to think of punks as bad people and anger and all of this, but then their hearts and the energy and the conversations were so good about transformation and commitment. And it was really, you could feel and observe and hear how this transformation of anger and outrage at society and a lot of how we're falling apart in many ways is rebirthing itself into something amazing and exciting. So it was pretty extraordinary to bear witness. Yeah, go ahead.
The punk movement has, in the last 10 years, they have helped the environmental movement in a lot of stuff, in logistic. They even help us with resources, with vehicles, with security. They've been such a help, the punk movement, into our environmental movement. I think things wouldn't be the same if we wouldn't have the support of all the punk, well, now the eco-punk movement, and we're really grateful. No, and I think all this was achieved through compassion.
Yeah. And I think one of the most important things is responsibility. Those young men and young women, so many young women. I mean, they're so egalitarian, or how do you say that in English?
Egalitarian.
Yeah. Okay. So the responsibility is capacity to respond, and they respond. They respond to their world with work, with vision, and I'll tell you something. When I first met Arnold, I went with my dearest friend, Laura Curi. We worked together with the Vision Council. The Vision Council, Guardians of Earth, is an organization that for many years now, every year or sometimes 2 years, we take 7 days and we go to different villages or different places in the city, and we bring councils for health and for environment, and we have 7 various councils. I won't get too much into it because it's a whole big subject, but we needed resources. So Laura says, well, I think it's the city's responsibility to help in some way, in this way. I think they should do something. So I heard of this assemblyman. And what were you, assemblyman, or what was your formal title when I met you?
Pues sí, rep from Mexico City, from Central.
Diputado. Okay. So anyway, so we ended up meeting him, and we explained what we were doing, and that we're going to go to Chiapas, and we're going to do some environmental work there, and we're going to need this and that and the other. And his eyes just lit up. And we felt, I think all 3 of us felt at that moment that we were really kindred spirits. We really resonated. I mean, this total stranger looks at us, he says, okay, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. Truckloads of bags of plates, and we that's the first time we met him, and he was so generous with us, and we have been working so profoundly close with him ever since.
I just want to be sure I understood correctly. So you were working with the Council of Elders that had different focuses of looking to give back and help build a more compassionate city, if you will. And then you connected with Arnold and then worked together in that way. Is that what's your...
It wasn't a Council of Elders. It's a council of all ages.
Okay.
We have youth, children, elders. We have indigenous. We have natural medicine. We have, I don't know, we have several councils. It's all ages and all peoples.
So is this something that people who are listening to now could get involved with?
They can look up.
Arnold's
Go
gonna
ahead.
No, Helen, I don't know if you know, but we're going to have a Vision Council meeting on the Bacalar, that's in the state of Quintana Roo, way south of Mexico.
November.
And it's going to be on November, on the end of November. Yes, they can get involved. They would have to fly to Cancun or Chetumal in Mexico, and they can see the webpage consejodevisiones.org, and they can get into our webpage so they could visit. But what Helen was telling is that, yeah, it's a gathering, it's a meeting, it's an experiment of 1 week. We get together environmentalists, healing people, healing from tradition, people like the punks, people like yoga people, different tribes, different, all the colors of the rainbow come together, and we create a village. We create an experiment for 1 week where we create an environmental village. We try to lower our environmental footprint. We try to make it all environmentally friendly. We do bioconstruction. We do dry toilets. We capture water from the rain. We use just environmental bioproducts, organic products. And we do is just live together 1 week. We give ourselves workshops on different themes and how to make sustainable living a more spiritual and connected society. And it's a very, very strong experience. It's one of my best experiences. I've been to more than 10 consejos de visiones, and each one of them changes your life. No, it's when you say things can be done differently. Things can be done in a more loving, in a more caring way. We should experiment and try evolving, no, to this new communitarian, sustainable society. And it's going to be much more fun. It's going to be less stressful, and we can do it. I still believe that we can achieve it. We can still shift to a more sustainable way of living.
Excellent. So one of the questions that just came up is, can you slowly and maybe even spell for us oh, I see. All right. Never mind. It's already been done. Okay. So just for further information, we will send the link that Arnold's just mentioned. We'll post it on our Facebook page, as well as at the conclusion of this call, within the next few days, we'll send you the recording of this call, as well as this link and other things that are mentioned in this topic.
I would just add one more thing. People go to that event. They also have their own networks, and we have people from Colombia, from many organizations, like, for example, the Eco Barrios of Colombia were model for us to have Eco Barrios in Mexico. There's networks of networks that go also, that take that knowledge back to their own countries up and down the Americas and in other places. It's not just Mexico. One time we had in Chiapas, we had 103 countries represented there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Fabulous. So I just looked at the time. It's about 8:45. So we have about 15 minutes left in this call. So I'd like to sort of segue into something a little different, which is about Compassionate Mexico City, and which is what we've been talking about and what brought us down there. And so for people who are interested in compassionate cities, this is something that you can check out on Charter of Compassion's website. I'm not going to go into all the details of that now, per se, other than in the context of in working to help Mexico City, although it's already well on its way to becoming a compassionate city. What do you two think of the role of women and girls and feminine energy in this? That's one question. And then the second question is, how does compassion play into this?
Helen, you start.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you something. Women in Mexico are very, very, very active. Very, very active. It's amazing. And not to say that the men aren't, but there's a massive wake up right now of women, and they're organizing. And I'm very happy to say that we're now formally working with the Museum of Tolerance, and a lot of the women organizations are going to sign up to do compassionate works. They will be housing our web content, right? Not our web content, but our reach out content for compassionate actions. They will be registering them through the museum in our website there. So we're going to be able to expand compassionate. You know, Mexico, to tell you something, having lived there many, many years, the true spirit of the Mexican is very kind and very compassionate. You know, there's people, unless you've been in the villages and see how much compassion there is with the people. So now it's time to bring it all back again. You know, history has been a little harsh lately with things happening. But I think everybody's ready to start their own little project. See, in Mexico, it's very easy to start your own project because it's not so organized as you have to do it through the school, you have to do it through this. People are used to doing things on their own.
So you're talking about really creating grassroots movement that is just
exploding it. And there's so many ideas already coming in. I'm going down to Mexico on the 3rd. I'll be there for a whole week, and all of that will be settled into having a way that people can just go in, tap in, what are we doing, and who's going to know about it and to share it and start it up. It's going to really explode.
So just, I see Arnold wants to say something, but I'm just going to put a marker here, which is, do you think that kind of, that energy and that behind it is replicable in other places, like in the US, like in Europe, like in the Middle East?
I would suggest to step away from individualism and pulling yourself up by your own boots, because some people don't even have boots. I think it's time that people acknowledge that do something, anything now with what you've got, you know, and do it in community and do it in circles. We have to change the governance model, which is a pyramid to a circle, circles of circles of circles. And I think the sooner that people start looking horizontally instead of up for somebody to save them or help them or do it, and they start looking horizontally into their own communities. I'll do one little example. I went to a wedding of 4 gang members, and it was the biggest wedding I've been to my whole life. And I said, how are they going to pay for this? Well, there was a godmother for the shoes, a godmother for the chairs, a godfather for the drinks, a godmother for everybody chipped in. And the Mexicans are used to that. So as soon as they get an idea, it starts taking off. The more the United States becomes circular in their doings, I think that the better that it will be.
Right. Thank you. Arnold.
And Arnold
sitting there waiting patiently.
Oh, I believe in circles also, totally in what Helen was saying. And we have to create communities. If our governments, our national governments cannot bring all these values that we're seeking, we have to do it ourselves. We have to start with our communities. We have to start seeking people. There's a lot of people that think like us, that have this intentions, that have also these worries, and then share the same preoccupations. So we should gather with them and share the solutions. We should start creating community. In Mexico City, we've done a lot of urban gardens. The one we belong to is called Huerto Roma Verde, and that's our community, that's our house, that's the place where we get together and we create. We're starting to create something different. We're starting to create the way we want it to be, the way we dream it, the way we feel it should have been done, and it's not being done. So we should start with our community, where with our closest people we know, we can create a space. If we can have a space, it can be our back garden, but also it can be a public space, and start owning it, and starting to create in that space and creating these awesome circles that Helen was talking about. And that's how things can start changing. We can do it in any city of the world. You can do it in the Middle East, in Africa, or wherever. It's just to create a circle and start talking. What do you want? What do you feel? What do you need? What would you like to cooperate? What would you like to share? What are your needs? How can we help? How can we provide? How can we make life easier for each one of us? And how can we have a compassionate heart to see this, no, to make it tangible?
Excellent. So on that note, you know, you mentioned, so your garden, when we were there, Helen said to me, oh, you've got to hear the story of how they took over this whole garden. Can you share that a little bit with us? Just point of
Yes,
reference.
but it's kind of started kind of sad because where we are, it's 8,000 meters. It's a big space for Mexico City. We are an oasis in the middle of this chaos. But in 1985, that used to be two big buildings that fell down because of the earthquake. You all remember of this big earthquake in 1985. And so from 1985 to 20 years after, the place was covered with rubbish. It was a place where nobody entered, nobody could go in or would want to go in because it was full of rocks, it was full of rubbish, of debris. A lot of it came from the old buildings that fell down. And then a friend called Paco started cleaning the place, and then we started helping him. A lot of people started helping him, taking all the rubbish out, and we started to create all these beds for the gardens. And then we started building also things with bioconstruction. And then we started to make a movement within there involving spiritual action, involving environmental issues, organic agriculture, bioconstruction, and now we're starting with music and arts. So it's a very inspiring place. A lot of people that come in go out differently. They say, I didn't know this place existed and all this alternative culture within the city. So it's a tangible space, a space where anybody, because it's public, can go in and touch the earth. I think that's something very important. We are totally separated from Mother Earth. We don't even touch nor the soil, and we have to start with that. No, that's the first thing we can do, getting together, connected with the earth. And we can do it through these spaces. We can create these spaces. I had some guys from New York in my house last week, and they're also building in Queens an urban garden. They're doing it beside the old train tracks, and they're doing a great job. And they're doing it in the U.S. Now, obviously, they need a lot of help. They're doing it with their own means. They don't have any resources, but they're still doing it because they have the heart. Maybe you don't have the money. Maybe you don't have the tools right now. Maybe you don't have the ability. But if you have the heart and if you have the intention, you will do it eventually. Now you have to have the discipline. And as Helen was saying, the responsibility and co-responsibility.
Excellent. So we just have a note here that's actually from Marilyn Turkovich, who's the Executive Director of Charter for Compassion International. And she says, thank you for this extraordinary campaign. Your work embraces what the Charter's Compassionate City movement is about, organizing from the core of need and generating responsive action. Thank you for the ideas you shared today. So I just wanted to pass that on before we... Yeah. Thank you, Marilyn. Before we wind down and move over into our after party, which, as I mentioned before, is another URL link, which we will post very shortly. And then have more of an interactive conversation with people one-on-one or group on group. But is there anything in the last 6 minutes that we have, either Helen or Arnold, that you'd like to share or sort of have people have as a takeaway?
I would like to share one thing really fast. I think that the United States is in a big transition. Mm-hmm. And I am so excited to see how many people are now talking to the neighbor, talking to the next door, talking to others, trying to figure out what to do together. And there's a surge of this feeling of coming together as a people, coming together as a group, coming together as someone that can do something. And I'm very excited. It's everywhere. Even when the so-called march, the Women's March, I call it an act of presence. Not a march. We were having an act of presence, you know, and I think it's fantastic what's happening right now. And we just have to have the heart, as Arnold says, to steer it in the direction of heart space and not rage, not anger. And honestly, I have no time of my life to dedicate to be angry and to be staring down somebody else. I'm too busy constructing.
Exactly. And I would add to that is that you have a big opportunity in the United States to change things. Right now, it seems that you don't have a very compassionate leader or president. Mexico is the same. At national level, we have also a person that is not very compassionate. But as Helen was saying, we don't have time to lose on that. Our time has to be invested in positive things, in constructing, in creativeness. How you say it?
Creativeness.
Yeah. And nothing is impossible if you really believe it in your heart. Even though people say it will not be possible, you don't stand a chance, you don't have the resources, don't believe them. If you really think you can make a change, keep that in your heart and make it real. As I was saying, nothing is impossible. Mexico City used to be the most polluted city in the world. It used to be, as they call it, a slum. They call it one of the worst places to live. And now in the past 20 years, we have transformed it. No? A small group of people that believe in change have achieved a lot of things. Obviously, it started small, but then we started growing. And we achieved a lot of things. Now we have one of the biggest compost plants on the planet. We are, most of the people in household level are separating their garbage. We still have a lot to do, but we move a lot. No, now there's lots of people bicycling. I don't know, there's like 10% of all trips are done through bicycling. You can sit in the center. We have more than 2,000 urban gardens in Mexico City, and it is possible. It is viable. You have to have the heart. You have to be compassionate to all the living beings, to animals, to trees, to water. They're all part of us. We're all connected, and we should be respecting and honoring life, and unable to be happier and unable to be with a big smile in our planet.
I just want to say one thing. Arnold's a very humble man in a good way. And I must tell you, for more than a year or two, he was the only person going around to say we have to recycle. We have to recycle. We have to recycle. Everyone in the government says, are you crazy? Impossible. Mexico City is a city that has a massive recycling system. And even not only recycling, but they're using the plastics and everything else. And he was a single-handed guy that went out every day, put his suit on, knocked on the door and said, we've got to do this. And they said, you're crazy. And honestly, he is the one who spearheaded it for so long. Now he has all these allies, but every day he got up and went out and said, we have to recycle to all the people that could do the change. And that's happening. And it was Arnold that did it.
Wow. Excellent. So we've just put, so everyone knows, we've switched onto the screen that everyone can see if they're online, the after party information. And I'm going to we have 2 minutes left, so I didn't want to interrupt you, Helen, but just so people can see that. And I'm going to just recite the phone numbers one last time before we switch over. If you'd like to call in, the phone number is 646, this is within the US, so country code 1, 646-558-8656, or the other number is 408-638-0968, and the meeting ID number is 653-718-545. I'll repeat both of the phone numbers and the meeting ID one last time. You can dial in at 646-558-8656 or 408-638-0968. Meeting ID is 653-718-545.
So I would just add that everybody who is viewing right now is viewing on their computers. And the easiest way to get there is just to go to bit.ly, bit.ly/C, capital CCIR2R, all capital letters, CCIR2R. You just click on the link. It's also in the chat box, and you can just click on it as we sign off here, and it should start to open another window, which is where the after party will be.
Right, excellent. Thank you, Reed. Okay, we're now at the 9 o'clock hour, so I'm just going to take 1 second and just thank you, Helen, and thank you, Arnold, so much for really an excellent conversation. I hope you will be joining us in our after party because you both have so much wisdom and experience and inspiration to share with people. So thank you. Thank you for your time out of your very busy schedules. And I hope that this is also, I hope that it's a recycling of inspiration so that heart to hearts we can go back out and keep inspiring one another and let it share to as many people as possible. So thank you for your time. And see you in the after party.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. We'll see you in a bit. Okay.
Bye.